Hey everybody, welcome back to another Rules Chalk Talk with Brad. After our last Rules Chalk Talk, which touched on 18.3, I got a great question, a couple of great questions. We're going to touch on one of them right now, and I'll just read it to you. Typically, H fleet, where pursuing boats are bigger and faster, you have rounded D mark and are headed to H mark. Rounding behind you is a faster boat that is bigger, so you don't want to get rolled if possible. That is normally a broad reach or a run. What is kosher in terms of heading up to discourage behind rolled? So what's kosher and basically like heading up to discourage being rolled from behind? We see it every week, and the slower boat is usually yours truly. Is there a rule to address it? Is there a Corinthian standard to be observed? Okay, so two questions really. Is there a rule to address it? And actually, there's several rules to address it. We're going to start with the obvious one, which is Rule 11, on the same tack overlapped. Oftentimes misread as windward leeward. It's called on the same tack overlap. And that's important because if you have two boats on opposite tacks, then Rule 10 applies. You have to be on the same tack and overlap. So that's number one, is Rule 11. We all know that one. Essentially, if two boats are overlapped, and the leeward boat is the right-of-way boat, the yellow boat in this case, the windward boat, red boat is the keep clear boat, okay? But let's move on to a really fun and interesting section. It's called Section B, General Limitations. And I specifically want to talk about Rule 16 and 17, okay? 16.1 and 17. So on the same tack, proper course is Rule 17. Rule 17 is going to be read here. If a boat clear astern, becomes overlapped within two of her hull lengths to leeward, so to leeward of a boat on the same tack, she shall not sail above her proper course while they remain on the same tack and overlapped within that distance, unless in doing so she promptly sails astern of the other boat. This rule does not apply if the overlap begins while the windward boat is required by Rule 13 to keep clear. Now, there's a lot going on in there, but for this rule scenario, I'm going to break it down to just a few things. And once again, it's very important to remind the viewers there's a section in the front of the rules called definitions. And anytime a word is italicized in a rule, it means there's a definition, and it's really important to understand that definition. So I'm just going to go back because there was two that were italicized. One was overlap, which is clear ahead and clear astern, and we kind of addressed that in a different rules talk earlier on, two rules talks ago. But proper course is also italicized, and this is what proper course is. A course a boat would sail to finish as soon as possible in the absence of the other boats referred to in the rule using the term. A boat has no proper course before her starting signal. So forget that last sentence, other than it's important to understand there's no limitations for leeward boats prior to the starting signal. A leeward boat can luff you before the starting signal, and that's important to understand. I have another rules talk I did last year, actually, that's in the rules talk on SBYC Racing's YouTube page that addresses that, and it's a very interesting one. But we're not talking about before the start signal right now. We're really just talking about going on a reach from D mark to H mark or K mark to H mark. So, so when a rule says you have to sail your proper course is essentially how would you get around the course the fastest way possible. And we're not assuming there's no boats on the course. We're assuming that the boat that you're kind of dealing with in the rule that we're talking about isn't there. So, for instance, in this situation, red is the boat. Let's say red has to sail proper course here, but red really wants to luff yellow. The only way that red should be allowed to luff yellow is if there's a bunch of boats right here and they're going really slow. And so red needs to go around them, and that would be red's proper course. So these boats here are part of red's proper course. They can go up like this, and yellow would need to go up with them, even if red was required to sail their proper course. So that's kind of the one thing. Otherwise, in general, your proper course is going to be based out of an idea of how would I get from one mark to the next mark fastest. You might need to avoid kelp, you might be heading up or surfing down a wave, you may be steering quite a bit actually, and that could be the fastest way to get there. And it's very, very subjective, but there are cases on it, and the point being is that proper course in general is going to be your quickest way to get from one mark to the next mark and around the course, okay? All right, so let's talk about Rule 17. Once again, if a boat comes, boat clear astern, once again, clear astern is if you draw a line off of yellow's stern right here, okay? And say if a boat comes clear astern, becomes overlapped within 2 of her hull lengths. And what it means by that is that they weren't 2 hull lengths, they weren't further than 2 hull lengths away. So if they're way down here, there's no limitations for red, okay? So they can kind of do whatever they want, and they're not, they acquired right of way. Yes, they're to leeward here, but they're so far away, it's okay. They're allowed to do what they want. There's no restrictions on red. But if they come to leeward of them right here, red is limited, okay? And this is the general limitation of Rule 17. She shall not sail above her proper course while they remain on the same tack and overlapped within that distance. So as long as she doesn't sail way down away and get away further than 2 boat lengths, and as long as they stay overlapped, red shall sail her proper course. So what that basically means is, does that mean that red can't head up at all? Once again, proper course is defined by the course you would sail basically to get around you would sail to get around the course as fast as possible in the absence of the boat the rule sort of applies to. So remove yellow from this. If red would go like that when yellow wasn't there, then they could theoretically do that. And under Rule 11, windward boat, yellow would be required to keep clear. Also, I want to point out that just because they've acquired right-of-way from clear astern, this yellow boat is still the windward boat, and they are required to keep clear of the leeward boat. So this red boat may say, well, I'm heading up a little bit because I see like some breeze up here I want to get to, and yellow has to go with them. Okay. Okay. The other thing I want to get in here real quick, we'll get to 16.1 in a second, and that's the fact that if red or a leeward boat does try to change course, they essentially have to give time or room for the yellow to go ahead and change course with them. Okay, but we'll get into that in a second. So let's talk about this. So we got a boat, and this is a slower boat. We're going from D to H, and here comes the big boat. Okay, the big boat decides, well, I'm just going to go to windward of them, and I'm going to roll them. What are the restrictions on yellow? Zilch. Guess what? Yellow can go head to wind, okay? And from Appeal 17, yellow's boom coming over like this for a second does not mean they have passed and come on to port tack or something like that. Part of the deal is they can shoot to head to wind, and if the boom doesn't matter where their boom goes, if their bow is into the wind, like, they're allowed to do that. And red is the windward boat. So, back to the initial and original question. I don't want to get rolled by this boat behind me. What are my allowances for luffing rights? And the answer is all the way to head to wind. So if you wanted to go, wait till they get overlapped like that and go like this, you can. And you can take them all the way up to head to wind, okay? And you can hold them there for that matter. There's one restriction on yellow here in that, and that is 16.1. When a right-of-way boat changes course, she shall give the other boat room to keep clear. Sorry, let me say that one more time. When a right-of-way boat changes course, she shall give the other boat room to keep clear. So when yellow begins to have that overlap and they say, all right, we're taking this guy to the moon, and starts heading up, if they send it so hard and so fast that red finds himself sliding in and colliding, there could be a situation where yellow could be thrown out under 16.1. But the only limitation for yellow is that they have to give room to do it. So they can start turning up, say we're going up, and if red doesn't go up, then, boom, protest right there. Which leads me to sort of the final thing. Second to final thing. One last thought on this. The rule is set up as such. A boat that is going to be passed from a boat that's clear astern kind of has the advantage. They're being sort of eaten up, and so if this boat decides I want to eat them fast and go to windward, then yellow has unrestricted luffing rights, with the exception of they just have to give them room as they luff them. If the red boat goes to leeward like this, the red boat can't really head them up. They can head them up to a certain extent to sail their proper course, and yellow has to keep clear, but red certainly would not be proper course to go try to luff them up like that. That would definitely be a breach of Rule 17, okay? So that's the only limitation that red has, is that they have to sail their proper course, okay? But yellow essentially is in a power position. If a boat's coming like this, they can force them down to leeward by going up a little bit early, so that red's tempted to say, well, it might just be faster to sail low, and then if they get overlap, well, guess what? Red can't take you up anyway, yellow, so you still have your fresh breeze, and even if they're a bigger boat and passing by you, you're still able to sail fast and sail your race. The one other part of the question was, is there a Corinthian standard to be observed? And after speaking with this individual a little bit more, there is an idea within the CHRF fleet that protests are un-Corinthian. What I would say is this, is that, and this is just my personal 2 cents, I believe the game is written to be Corinthian, and so back to this original example, if yellow is going to be rolled by red, yellow has every right to do that, and that is not un-Corinthian. That's how the rules are written. They're allowed to do that. If red decides, wait a second, I don't really want to do that, and then forces yellow down, and I think yellow should protest red. And I think the Corinthian thing to do is for red to spin their one single turn and keep sailing. That's what I think should happen. It's only one turn. It's not even that big a penalty. And in fact, if red decided, well, I don't know if I should be turning and maybe I didn't break the rule, and then after the race decides they did, there's actually a post-race penalty they could take, which is like a 30% scoring penalty. So I look at it and I say, none of this stuff should make it to the protest room. There's plenty of time for red to figure out, did I do something wrong or didn't I do something wrong, and take the scoring penalty, or better yet, right in the race, okay, maybe I did foul and I'm gonna do my spin. Is there anything un-Corinthian about red trying to roll yellow? In my opinion, no. And the rules are set up so yellow can defend themselves. Yellow can go like this and get red hard, okay? If red decides to go low, then that's kind of, that would be the route that would probably cause the least conflict. And that's the way the rules are written. It wants the sailor to, you can go high, but if you go high, you risk getting luffed to the moon. And if you go low, then you're probably fine. You're probably going to sail straight to the mark. So I guess if you were being a nice guy, and I think that's different than Corinthian, you might go to leeward if your boat red. But I don't think it's un-Corinthian to go above or below. I think that what is allowed by yellow in the rules allows them aggressive action if red goes above like that. And that's pretty much it, and that's just my 2 cents on Corinthian and what's right or what's wrong. It's just an opinion. But I can say, once again, if you come from clear stern and within 2 hull lengths to leeward, this red boat has to sail their proper course. Okay, they cannot take yellow up. And if they come from clear stern to windward, it's game on. Yellow can take you all the way to the moon.